Welcome back to episode 4 of the lower calorie series. Today, the chicken bacon ranch hoagie, or sub sandwich if you'd like. First, we'll make whatever sandwich shop you want to picture's version to establish a baseline of calories, and more importantly, understand the underlying techniques of how it's made. Then, we'll analyze where we can make lower calorie substitutions while maintaining the same volume of food and the highest level of taste adherence to the original version. Hey everyone, I'm Ethan, a home cooking nerd who likes to find better ways to cook and share them with all of you. We covered the hoagie roll in my last video, so today is all about the chicken bacon ranch hoagie. One of my all-time favorites. It's just a stellar combination. This lower calorie version comes in at over 400 less calories for the total sandwich, and I honestly cannot wait to taste test these side by side. So we'll hop into the video and I'll meet you guys all back here at the end. Before sandwich assembly, all the ingredients need to be prepped. The hoagie rolls are from my last video, so head over there if you want to learn how they are made. But for the chicken thighs, these were dry brined for an hour in the fridge. Then get 14 grams of mayo and add no less than 30 cranks of fresh black pepper and slather that mixture over the chicken thighs that have been sliced so they lie flat. Then move the chicken thighs to a cast iron over medium heat and cook until nicely brown and cooked through. Then you can let them cool before slicing and setting aside. For the bacon, slide 3 slices on a baking sheet and bake at 400 degrees Fahrenheit for about 15 minutes until they are crackling and delicious. Meanwhile, you can make a homemade ranch dressing, which is as simple as mixing sour cream, mayonnaise, milk, red wine vinegar, lemon juice, mustard, parsley, and chives into a bowl. Give this a taste and add salt and black pepper as you see fit. Again, be pretty heavy-handed with that black pepper. And don't forget the garlic like I nearly did because it really ups the bite. Lastly, thinly slice some tomatoes, some romaine lettuce, and gather the pickled onions. To assemble the sandwich, the hoagie roll is sliced open and slathered with homemade ranch on both sides of the bread. Don't skimp here. Then pack on the chicken, followed by our slices of bacon. Then add the shredded cheddar cheese and place it under the broiler until it just starts to melt. Then to finish this out, add the lettuce, tomato, and a bunch of pickled onions. Finally, wrap this up in some parchment paper and let it sit for a couple minutes before slicing on a diagonal and enjoying. Weighing in at 480 grams, or about 17 ounces, this restaurant-style version comes in at 1,540 calories, 92 grams of carbs, 88 grams of fat, and 84 grams of protein. Now, depending on your dietary needs, this could easily be 2, maybe even 3 servings, but let's talk about our substitutions. So even though the 11-inch hoagie roll comes in at 500 calories, when considering that bread is one of the most important aspects for a quality hoagie, in my opinion at least, I personally will not be replacing it, though you could in yours, but instead let's talk about what I am changing. First, I'll be using chicken breast instead of chicken thighs. For an equal amount by weight, this will result in 110 fewer calories. What do we lose in terms of flavor though? Well, chicken thighs have more fat, which as we have learned leads to a more intense flavor because it makes chicken taste more like chicken. And from a texture perspective, the additional fat also leads to a slight unctuousness that chicken breast just can't match. Next, I'll be using 3 slices of turkey bacon in place of 3 slices of regular pig bacon, resulting in 120 fewer calories. As you could probably guess, there is way less fat in turkey bacon, meaning less of an intense flavor. More importantly though, in my opinion, because of this lack of fat, it can't render and get crispy like normal bacon does, which you can clearly see in this side-by-side look. This means for our sandwich that you lose out on some of that crispy texture in the final product. For the third substitution, I will be using a 0-calorie Chipotle ranch dressing, which will result in 140 fewer calories. What the hell is in 0-calorie ranch? Well, I was wondering the same, and to me it just looks like a vinegar-based sauce with a bunch of spices that was then thickened with xanthan gum. I think this could be interesting to try and recreate someday, but for this video, I'm just using a store-bought one. And in my opinion, it's not noticeably worse from a taste and texture perspective from a normal calorie store-bought ranch, but it doesn't hold a candle to the homemade ranch that is made with a number of fresh ingredients. Lastly, I've substituted the shredded cheddar for Havarti, which will result in 60 fewer calories. Havarti is another semi-hard cheese like cheddar, but it has less fat content and a milder flavor, which will let the flavor of the chicken bacon ranch shine through a little bit more. However, this one is really down to preference. It'll be really interesting to see in side-by-side taste tests just how much of a difference that these two really play, but first let's walk through the step-by-step recipe for the low-calorie version. Like before, let's get all of those ingredients prepped, and then we'll assemble the sandwich. To start, bash the chicken breast until it is flat and even, then we'll add 1.5% salt and let this sit in the fridge just like our dry brine from my grilled chicken video. Meanwhile, add 14 grams of mayo in a bowl with an obscene amount of black pepper, again at least 30 cranks because we want to call this black pepper chicken, so it needs a lot of black pepper. Then you're going to mix the mayo marinade together, pull out the brine chicken and dab off the excess liquid on top and slather that black pepper mayo over the breast and coat both sides evenly. Move the chicken to a cast iron over medium heat and cook it until it is nicely browned and the internal temperature reaches around 150 to 155 degrees. Let the chicken cool before slicing, and as you can see, it is nice and juicy from that dry brine. With the chicken done, slide the turkey bacon onto the cast iron and cook it until it's done. Just brown it up on both sides. Again, not much fat here, so it's not as satisfying to watch as normal bacon. Then lastly, thinly slice some romaine lettuce, a bunch of slices of tomato, and gather the pickled onions. And I should note, these pickled onions are just 1 part vinegar, 1 part water, and a pinch of salt and some black peppercorns that is boiled and then pour over the onions. But let's assemble our hoagie. Slice open the roll and slather chipotle ranch on both sides of the bread, then pack on the chicken, followed by our slices of turkey bacon, which I cut on a diagonal, then 1.5 slices of Havarti cheese, and I threw this under the broiler for a minute until it just starts to melt, then add the lettuce, tomato, and some of those gorgeous pickled onions. Lastly, let's wrap this from a top-down point of view. Get a large piece of parchment paper and line the hoagie slightly back from center on a diagonal, then pull the edge closest to you up and wrap it over the hoagie, just giving that a quarter roll. Tuck in the left side, then the right side, and continue rolling the rest of the way until you have a tight little bundle of joy. You can secure this with tape and mark your sandwich. I like to let this sit for at least a couple minutes to let those flavors get to know each other, and then as always cut on a diagonal. Let's take a look at the calorie breakdown. The lower calorie version weighed 530 grams, so a little bit more, primarily from the bacon since the fat didn't render out. And this comes in at 1,110 calories, 95 grams of carbs, 38 grams of fat, and 114 grams of protein, which is kind of nuts. Like I said earlier, this could easily be 2 servings if you would like, so here are those numbers. And then lastly, here is the comparison between the restaurant style and the lower calorie version side by side. And now, my friends, it is time for the taste test. I cannot wait to taste test these. They've been sitting in this wrapper for probably a good 10 minutes, so all those flavors should be perfectly together. The bread should be a little bit soggy, but still nice and hearty. Got the restaurant style one here first. Let's give it a taste test. Damn, that is good. All right, we'll take a bite of this one and compare and contrast a little bit. All right, both of these are very delicious in their own right. Let's kind of compare our subtle changes that we made between the two. So first up, for the cheese, there's not a huge difference here. That's kind of more preference than anything. I do prefer kind of the sharp cheddar for a sandwich like this, but I mean, Havarti is great as well. The meltiness, you don't really notice a huge difference in this one because there's so many other ingredients. Then as far as the chicken goes, chicken thighs a little bit more fatty, kind of get a better mouthfeel, kind of the juiciness, which I prefer. And then the breasts are gonna be, you know, they're a little bit drier. It's gonna be a drier cut, even though we did dry brine it and all these things. It's just naturally gonna be a little bit, you know, drier than something like chicken thighs. It's dark meat versus white meat. And in this case, it does come through in the taste and the texture. As far as the bacon goes, it renders out when you have the pig bacon because we have that extra fat in there. So you guys saw in the little clip how it was crispier, it held its structure, versus turkey bacon, which is really just kind of, it's kind of like ham, like a slice of ham that you fried up in the pan. It still tastes good, but texturally it's lacking a little bit of what I would like, obviously. And then the last thing that makes the biggest difference between the two, in my opinion at least, it makes the flavor just pop off the board, and that is the homemade ranch, which I have not made in a long time. And I forgot how good it was because it rounds out this sandwich so nicely. You get the creaminess, you get the tanginess, you get a little bite from the garlic, and it just rounds out perfectly with this sandwich. Compare that with the no calorie version. It's like okay, and it's decent in terms of, you know, if you were just to go get ranch from like the store, but when you compare it to that homemade version, it just doesn't quite stand up. You don't get that kind of flavor pop on the tip of your tongue, which is really what I like most about these sandwiches. But both of these are absolutely delicious sandwiches in their own right, and these are really heavy. Like I said, they're over a pound each, so you could easily split this up into, you know, 2 servings if you wanted to, whatever your dietary needs are. But that's gonna wrap it up for this video. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed the video. Definitely drop me a like and subscribe if you have. Thank you to all my Patreon supporters who have been showing the channel some support, and thank you to everyone who's been watching, commenting, liking, and all that. We're gonna keep this train rolling. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.